Now, the big question is, will you support what Schumer is asking for, which is to reinforce the McConnell rules, so to speak, which is you don't confirm, you don't vote on a Supreme Court justice in an election year?
No, I will not. And here's why. There is no McConnell rule. There is the Biden rule, which was established by then Senator Joe Biden when he was chairman of the Judiciary. Then Senator Biden said it is improper to confirm a Supreme Court nominee during a presidential election year. We're not in a presidential election year. We are have midterm elections, but we have those every 2 years anyway. We only have a presidential election, of course, every 4 years.
So you believe there will be a vote before the midterm election?
I do. I think there will be a long confirmation hearing. I hope it's orderly. I hope everybody has plenty of time to ask questions. I know who I'm looking for. I want a cross between Socrates and Dirty Harry. I don't want a hater. I want a whip-smart man or woman who understands the role of the United States Supreme Court vis-a-vis Congress and the president. I think Neil Gorsuch was an excellent choice. I don't know if Justice Gorsuch has a twin sister or twin brother, but if he does, that's the kind of person I would look for.
So you want somebody who makes conservative, extreme positions at every opportunity. That's what Gorsuch has done.
No,
he's voted with Clarence Thomas, not even Scalia as a model.
Yeah, let me make a prediction, Chris.
Yes,
I think you over the next 5 or 10 years, you will be very surprised at how Neil Gorsuch votes. Now, I'm not saying he's not a so-called conservative, if some people define that term, but Neil Gorsuch sees his job as looking at a statute and looking at the Constitution and trying to discern what Congress, or in the case of the Constitution, our founders and the ratifiers and the people who voted for the Bill of Rights meant. He is not the sort of person who is going to make policy on his own. That doesn't mean Supreme Court justices don't make policy.
They just did it.
Of course they do. But they do it within the confines and in the context of a particular case. If you want to be a free-roaming policymaker, you shouldn't aspire to be a federal judge. You ought to go run for the Senate or the House or President of the United States. That's the kind of justice I'm looking for. Right. Let me say it again. Whip smart, understands the role of the court, is not a hater, will call it like he sees it, will call the balls and strikes, as Justice Roberts once said.
Right.
That's the kind of judge I think Judge Kennedy was, and that's who I'm looking for.
Well,
I don't
Justice
care about
Kennedy
their politics.
actually was that because he did make occasional decisions that weren't as expressly partisan as we see from this court.
That's true.
All the time. I mean, look, John Kennedy, you're a plain-spoken guy, and it makes you appealing to a lot of people because of that. You know that there is a game afoot. We always have these men and women come up, no matter who's in power at the time, and they all say the same thing. They say, I want them to look at the law and the statutes and make it on the basis of that, not politics. And all the nominees come up and say they'll do exactly that. And then they get on the bench, and every decision falls on partisan lines. And that's what we're seeing right now, even if that means judicial activism. This union case, the Janus case, that was existing precedent that the court had agreed on, but now the composition is different, and they made a different ruling. The only difference is politics. And Trump wants people on there who will echo the sentiments of his voters. And that's who he's going to pick. And you're going to have to live with that. It's not going to just be somebody who looks at the law and the facts. They're going to look at the politics as well, no matter what they say.
Well, and that's one point of view, Chris, and I do realize that some people see it that way. And I've never been a federal judge, maybe, or certainly not on the Supreme Court. Maybe that's the way it works. But I pretend to think otherwise. I want to think otherwise. I pretend to. I would want to think otherwise.
But look at Gorsuch. Gorsuch is a living example of this. Every decision is very conservative.
I think you're being unfair to Gorsuch. I don't think he's been on the court, one term?
True.
I think you have to look at certain minimum of 5 years, preferably 10. And I honestly believe it. I wouldn't have voted to confirm him had I not. I think Gorsuch is a call it as he sees it. And if you look at some of his circuit court opinions,
yes,
you would look at them and go, I don't know whether that's liberal or conservative.
Some of them, you're right.
Liberal.
So I remember that during our analysis period of doing it. I look back at it today. It's true. On this court, though, the Supreme Court, it's been a little different. But let's leave it at this, Senator Kennedy.
Okay.
Do you believe that you reflect the entire corpus, the body of Republican senators, do you believe that McConnell will get everybody on board to pick a Supreme Court justice now before the midterms?
Yes, I do. Now, will everybody get on the board of a particular nominee? It depends on the nominee.
Right.
I've been the only Republican to vote against one of President Trump's nominees. I did it
with good reason, by the way.
Yeah, but and I pretty harshly questioned another one that he withdrew. So I want to see who the nominee is. But I hope the president chooses well, and I have no reason to think he won't. I do think there'll be a vote. I'm not so naive, Chris, as to think this won't be a knockdown, drag out, in the dirt, bare knuckle, nose-biting fight. But it doesn't have to be. I hope we have a rational discussion, because this is a decision. This will be one of the most important decisions, if not the most important, I will make in the United States Senate.
There are predictions that after this man or woman is chosen, you'll have at least 20 states, maybe more, who knows, making up state laws that will change reproductive rights, anticipating it going to the Supreme Court, and maybe a change in one of the most fundamental pieces of law in culture politics that we have today, Roe v. Wade. So, Senator Kennedy, thank you for weighing in.
Thank you, Chris.
Timely and important, sir. Be well.
Thanks, man.